Here, some good news. Let's watch some good news instead.
But Congresswoman, if you could, and obviously I understand it's sensitive, there's probably certain things you can't tell us about. What was it like from your perspective? I mean, you're home, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Did this start with
I'm actually genuinely shocked that you could swat a fucking congressperson.
a knock on the door?
I thought that was like exclusive to fucking YouTubers and Twitch streamers and shit.
Was it a phone call? Was it a pounding? What actually happened last night from what you can tell us?
Yeah, and I'll be happy to go through detail by detail. So I was sound asleep. Of course, never expected anyone to be coming to my house at that time in the morning. Heard some knocks on the door, heard my doorbell, saw some lights outside, heard people outside my windows in my yard. And I jumped out of bed, threw my clothes on, and I picked up my gun. That was my instinct because I'm a gun owner. I'm a Second Amendment supporter, and
Damn, I wish she fucking came out with that. If she came out with the fucking 9, things would be very different.
I believe in defending myself, and normally I answer the door with a gun, especially if it's someone that I don't expect coming to my home. But for some reason, I had this weird gut instinct to not take my gun with me to the front door, which was very out of norm for me. So I put my gun down and I just went down the hallway, and the house was still dark. And I came around the corner and looked out the windows, and there I saw the police outside, and they had their guns. They were ready because they had received a terrible phone call to the 911 center.
I don't know.
But also the police report states something else fairly alarming, that the suspect claims that he or she is connected to this website, which is a site that actually supports cyber stalking. The suspect even gave police their username. So basically, as you pointed out, this is a suspect admitted to intending to do harm via...
His name was Autistic Right.
Cyber stalking. You said you fully want to, prosecute whomever did this. And I'm assuming that suspect is still at large, right?
Yes, there's an investigation underway, and there's an even investigation into whether that's really the person that did this. But isn't it concerning that such a website exists? Like, why does that even exist? That website needs to be taken down.
Yo, she's spitting. She's spitting. No, that's great. I let her speak. You think now that Madam Titan got swatted, the government might actually put forward legislation to protect people against this? No, because she ultimately is not all that relevant. She doesn't have enough clout within the Republican Party to like put forward any legislation. If it happened to like Nancy Pelosi or Nancy Pelosi's children or something, then yes, they would do that. But
there should be no business or any kind of service where.
Why is clout important in politics? What do you mean? How do you fucking write legislation? How is she going to fucking put forward legislation? How is she going to get people to vote for that legislation? How do you think legislation is written?
You can target your enemy.
Clout is the most important thing
absurd,
in politics.
And this is the type of lawlessness that Democrats want all over the country. You know, the Democrats are the party of defund the police, which has created crime that is going out of control all over the country. But it's also failure of our government and failure of our law enforcement to not take down a website like that. Like, all of these types of groups need to be completely eradicated. They should not be allowed to exist. They should not be able to abuse police resources like that. And police officers, we need more police officers. We don't have enough right now. They need to be able to respond to traffic accidents as real emergencies, and to calls where they've got to save someone's life, not be part of a prank or a potential, way to kill someone.
Nobody tell Marjorie Taylor Greene that like people on Kiwi farms largely agree with her. And that this, while this may reek of a false flag, nobody tell her that, okay?
So, you know, that has to end.
Okay. Let's just let her go along with it. Let it sit there a little bit. Okay, what is this? House of Dragons actor addresses racist
New hit
comment.
show House of the Dragon, days after the record-breaking premiere of the Game of Thrones prequel. One of the stars, Steve Toussaint, is addressing racist comments made by some viewers about his casting. Chris Connolly has more. Chris, good morning to you.
And good morning to you, Whit. You know, it's far from the first time this has happened, but it's still shocking to learn about racist comments aimed at a black performer. And he's speaking out about the abuse.
Yes, you can ban it. Lake McGroove, you can ban the fucking chatter. Who said, still curious. Like, I timed this motherfucker out and goes, still curious what your opinion on the adequate penalty should have been for a 14-year-old student who lured her teacher to a bathroom, slit her throat while violently raping her, putting her into a bin and dragging her body outside the school. You got mad at me bringing up this case from years ago, but I want to know, just curious, again, you can permanently ban this guy. Like, no shit, that kid needs to be fucking institutionalized, brother. Like, obviously, that's such a ridiculous fucking take. What do you think? I'm going to be like, oh, the kid should walk free. Like, is that what you think? Just curious? There you go. You got your fucking ban, okay? I was trying to be nice, but I just wanted to show you exactly what these motherfuckers do when you give them an inch, okay? He's still on the fucking, that insane crime. He wanted to be banned so he can go and, like, talk about how he, you know, this is his villain aesthetic. This is his villain moment. It's just impossible, dude. It's impossible. 8-month subscriber, dude. Holy fuck. You just can't be nice to debate lords. You need to purge them. You need to fucking purge them, dude. Just every time. Just insanity. Yeah, that kid got life in prison, dude. What do you want? You want to fucking kill him? You got life in prison. Clearly, he's not normal. Like, this is not like a normal criminal who is carjacking either because they want to fucking make money or carjacking because they have nothing else going on in their fucking lives. There's a drastic difference between a 13-year-old who's doing carjackings because they have no other fucking outlet, okay? And trying to adequately plug that hole is entirely different than, like, someone who has done such a horrific thing that is drastically different. This isn't me dick riding Tucker. It's me being horrified by such a crime committed by a kid. Bro, I asked you to fucking dial back the neurodivergence. You dialed it up. You hit me with a just curious. I don't care about the fucking House of Dragon actor thing. Here, we'll talk about, we'll talk to Joe Rogan talking to Mike Baker, former CIA officer, about the FBI Trump raid, and then we're going to move on to fun stuff. I'm losing my fucking mind.
What do you think about the raid? Was that justified?
Well, I'll caveat this by saying it's speculation because I haven't seen the affidavit. No, not many people have. So, but then I'll start by saying,
what, you just finished telling us how to deal with anecdotal evidence? Yeah, you're right. Honestly, that kid should have been forced to watch top of the hour ad break. Fuck. No way, shape, or form do I actually advocate for anyone seeing the top of the hour ad break. That punishment does not fit any crime whatsoever. At the top of the hour, there's a 6-second ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe. Can do for $5 or for free for the Twitch Prime. Here's a 1 minute ad break now.
It's yet another self-inflicted wound by Trump, right? He didn't need to end up like that. The departure from the White House was fairly chaotic, as you can imagine, right? That's just the nature of what they were doing. There wasn't the level of organization. It wasn't a very buttoned-up administration, right? And it was in part because they had a lot of churn in personnel and all this. But you can argue that every administration has some back and forth with the National Archives over what is and isn't presidential record, what they can keep as their own personal material, and what has to be held by the government.
Why would they keep it? Like, what would be a reason?
Well, I mean, if they consider it personal correspondence, or they consider it, information that is not classified and is just material that one day can end up in a presidential library, or they can use to write a book when they finish up and they want to make a few $100 million on a book, then fine. But there's always typically some back and forth that goes on about, okay, what is and what isn't and what can be kept. But that requires a process, right? And that requires there's protocols involved for saying what you can take with you, right? But you can. And so if they had done that, if they'd done the right thing, they wouldn't have ended up in this situation. And what they did was once again, Trump is able to suck all the oxygen out of the room, right? And it's one of those things that I think was just unnecessary. Was the raid justified? I don't know, because I don't know what the specific documents were that they really had a Jones about. They were been negotiating this for some time, right? They'd been talking to them and going back and forth.
What a wonderful way of saying that, Donald Trump refused to comply to multiple instances of requesting the documents without a fucking personal retrieval. That's a really cool dude. I mean, this is literally serf brain, dude. It's just peasant brain. He's just like, no, the God King cannot be fucking. The God King's, castle cannot be penetrated by the security forces. The security forces are not supposed to do that. I will defend this till the day I fucking die. That's bullshit. How dare they do this to Donald Trump? No other circumstances would they ever have this kind of why isn't there more leniency? No other circumstance would anyone even get this level of leniency to begin with. There's no planet in which you just take classified information somehow, okay? And then the authorities say, hey, you got to give that back. Not even classified intel. Anything. You take something that doesn't belong to you, the authorities come and ask nicely to get it back without any, they're like, we don't want to disrupt anything. Can we just get it back? Please. And then they ask time and time again. And then they subpoena it and you give some of it back, but not all of it. And then you fucking get to complain after they take it all back. It doesn't work that way. And for people saying Hillary Clinton, throw her in fucking jail then. Don't talk to me about it. Don't talk to me about it, dumbass. Talk to Trump. He's the one who didn't fucking do it.
Forth, and they discussed what they had and how is it stored and all the rest of it. And they'd gotten 15 or so boxes earlier. Why they didn't just do that all in one effort and say, okay, we have more documents. Maybe it was taking the archives a while to understand what was and wasn't in the materials that were returned, or was. So I don't know. I just
Do you have suspicions that it was a political maneuver? That the design was to cast more bad light on Trump and eliminate him from the 2024 elections, or try to figure out a way to diminish his appeal?
Yeah, I mean, I think there politics in the sense that there are a lot of folks up on Capitol Hill who took delight in it, right, and found it to be a really good piece of entertainment. But if you say politics from the FBI's perspective, from the Department of Justice's perspective, I mean, I know a number of guys that work for the Bureau, and I know them to be really solid people. They're street guys, they're investigators, they do their job, they're very, very good. I don't know anybody senior in the DOJ or at the Bureau, so I don't know how politicized they are and whether that played into it or not. But people that are actually engaged in the search, that show up at Mar-a-Lago, they're doing their job, right? And they've been told this is what we have to do. I think that it was such an extraordinary step and so unprecedented that maybe I'll be proven wrong once they release the affidavit and we all find out what was sitting there. But I can't help but think that they had a reason why they said, no, we can't.
Okay, I realize now why he's like taking the long way home, taking the scenic route, because he doesn't want to come across like he's anti-Trump. I think he's like, if inevitably there's two wolves inside this man, Mike Baker, okay, former CIA Mike Baker. One wolf that is reactionary and likes Donald Trump as a beacon of that reactionary hope, the white hope. The other wolf is like these institutions, specifically, I can't even talk. Specifically, the law enforcement agencies are infallible and they're always doing the right thing. They're guided by morality. So, and both of those wolves are racist, of course. So, basically, what he's trying to do here is like coming to terms with like which one is more powerful, and trying to defend the FBI while simultaneously saying like, oh well, I don't know. I mean, they wouldn't do something like this if it wasn't, if it wasn't valid, right? The FBI would never do that. I mean, they could be doing something political, but like, I don't know.
We can't just keep dragging along here because we're not getting the responses we need. So we do need to go in. We need to knock on the door, say, look, we've got to, Now, I do suspect that they could have approached it differently.
What the fuck isn't racist in Hassan's opinion? Brother, come on. You're really gonna get mad at me for saying the FBI and CIA are racist institutions? I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. It's like, oh, bro, I can't believe you said the Klan is racist. Who isn't racist in your opinion? Like, that's insane, brother. I mean, these motherfuckers assassinated the FBI, straight up assassinated black leaders. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? They even if they didn't directly assassinate MLK, which I do think that they did, okay, they sure said that they were going to. At least in declassified details. They did assassinate Fred Hampton in his sleep. They played a role in the assassination of Malcolm X. We know that. And CIA operates in a similar capacity, but worldwide. Okay? So yes, these institutions are fundamentally white supremacist. And if you didn't know that, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, it's a sad day for you to, I guess, come to the Hasanabi broadcast and recognize that reality. But I'll do that for you. You know what I'm saying?
And not had the presence they had and everything. But who knows? This is the problem we live in this world today.
FBI catches lots of pedos, though? Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, they catch a lot of pedophiles so they can, work them as CIs. They catch the pedophiles exclusively so they can have all the child porn. They're like, we need to be the number one child porn havers.
There's immediately after that took place, there were people on the left and people on the right who were absolutely sure they had exactly the information to make a decision about what this meant and why it was done or why it shouldn't have been done. And that's part of our problem. The unsatisfying answer is you got to wait and find out what exactly occurred to see whether it was justified or not. but nobody wants to hear that, right? It's like after a terrorism incident, everybody wants an answer immediately, right? Well, it's an investigation, and those things take time. You know, all I can say is the folks I know at the Bureau are really quality people. But do people at the top of an organization, are they more politicized? Well, sure, there's a tendency for that to happen, right? Because that's, you know, they've been around a long time. They're at that position because, you know, they work closely with, you know, politicos or whatever. But I don't know. It doesn't really answer your question. I've just spent a lot of time talking in circles. But
well, it's just,
you know.
it's so confusing for someone like me. It's like going, well, what's going on here? Is there more than meets the eye, or is this like clearly an example of him doing something that is 100% forbidden, but he feels like he can do it because he's Donald Trump and he feels like the rules don't apply to him? I mean, that's what the fear is, right?
Yeah. Well, I think he's certainly always pushed the envelope. I don't think it's nobody can really argue the fact that he's kind of used his own playbook,
right,
you know, all along. And you know, you can't just say, and then people, he's saying things like, well, I declassified the documents. You know, they're all declassified. Well, you can't just click your heels and say these documents are declassified, right? There's a process that takes place. Otherwise, it's a complete fucking goat rope, right? Nobody knows what's classified, what's not. You know, you can't just, in your presidential head, say, okay, I'm declassifying everything related to, you know, whatever this was.
Does a president have the ability to declassify things?
Sure, unilaterally. Yeah, unilaterally.
So he could declassify documents and then conceivably store these documents.
Yeah, but there's a process for that, right? I
mean, did he not go through the process?
Dude, yes, he didn't. What do you mean, maybe? Bro, I feel like the Joe Rogan experience, when they're not talking about conspiracies, they still do the same thing as like, oh, well, I guess we'll never know. It's like, no, dude, we do know. What do you mean? Like, why are you asking questions that you could just literally be like, hey, Jamie, can you pull that up? And Jamie could tell you. Where is Jamie? That's what I want to know. We need to declassify Jamie. Where the fuck is Jamie? Just pull that shit up. Like, every single question that Joe Rogan asked in this back and forth conversation could have been answered by one Google search and an NBC.com article. You know what I mean? You could have just like pulled up one article and every single part of the things that they're talking about back and forth would have straight up been addressed.
Based on what has been reported so far, but again, without the affidavit, without the specific details, who knows? But if there's documentation that's not cataloged and marked as declassified, right? That's, again, you know, it has to show that. If you've got a document that's, you know, top secret, you know, code word, and you look at it and it's marked top secret, you know, code word, then, you know, you have to assume it's still classified, right? And just the mere fact of him saying, oh, no, you know.
I mean, he's not wrong. This is literally how it works. It's kind of stupid, but like the declassification processes we talked about in detail literally is like there's something that you need to do to make sure that it's declassified. And then after that, they have to take those documents and like literally write over them as declassified. Like it's like almost, it's stupid how basic it is, but that's a part of that's part of how you know something is declassified. So it seems it's like comically simple, you know what I mean? It's like oversimplified. You wouldn't expect it to be that way, but it is kind of like that. In any case, he didn't do it. So what the fuck are we talking about? He just didn't do that. He didn't do that.
Last year I declassified that. That doesn't hold water. You can't, you know, he has to follow protocol, and that's where I think he slips up, is he doesn't necessarily believe that applies to him, or he's just not, you know, it's just not the nature of.
He's not compliant.
Yeah.
So and then isn't he suing now to get documents back?
Yeah, he is, and also to have information not released. I think part of this problem, again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before with the transparency of the U.S. government. Which,
by the way, the declassification doesn't even matter in this situation because it's like considered national security. It's considered material that he's not supposed to have as it pertains to national security. So that's it. It's over. It's a wrap. It's funny, but it doesn't matter. I work with a lot of conservatives. We handle classified material every day, and they've been silent about this whole issue because we all know the severity of mishandling TS/SCI documents. Yeah, top secret classification documents like you just can't fucking have.
Talked about this in this little conference room in DOJ, wherever they talked about it. And they said, we're thinking about conducting a raid. And the Bureau doesn't like to use the word raid, or DOJ doesn't like to use the word raid. But when they said, we're talking about doing a raid on the home of the former president, they probably should have, once again, from a messaging perspective, stepped back and thought to themselves, okay, what does that mean? How are we going to justify this? Not that they have to, but they should have known what a firestorm it was going to create. And so they should have had that completely buttoned up and ready to go the moment they were going to do it, and be as transparent within the limitations of what they can do, right, of what they were doing and why they were doing it. Because if they don't, they create all that open space, right? And that's where everyone jumps in and starts declaring what exactly happened without knowing what the fuck happened.
Right.
And then you get all this misinformation and disinformation, and it's another fucking goat rope. So it's a process that I think the Attorney General probably should have handled better, because he had to authorize it. They also had to go in. If the White House says they didn't know anything about it, that's where I'm going to call bullshit. Right? The White House saying we had no idea that the AG was authorized to search the former president's home. Yeah, probably that's not the case. They're gonna have, you have to assume they got to walk in, sit down, and say, "Sir, we got a little something we got to talk to you about," and just let you know this is coming down the pike.
So how does that play out? You think? Do you think that is it nothing? Is it?
I mean, this is more. This is more support for the FBI than I thought would happen. You know what I mean? Like, even when he's like, listen. Even when they are, obviously still on their reactionary slant, it's still back to blue is still coming in strong.
All much ado about nothing, and will it not impact him, or will it be a significant factor?
Yeah, I think I'm going to lose that $1,000 to you, because I think he's going to.
Let's see what the hogs are saying. It's actually impressive how this guy managed to speak with that for hours. Joe respectfully asked him genuine questions, knowing there's zero chance he'll get the truth. This guy definitely going to be running for some kind of office at some point. He's a politician through and through. Oh damn, they don't like it. Why does Joe think he's ever going to get an honest answer out of a CIA agent? I mean, to be fair, I agree. This is bipartisan. Like, why the fuck do you ask a CIA agent or an ex-CIA agent, which there's no such thing, who's still doing PR for the CIA? Like, why the fuck would he? Why do you think he's going to give you any answers?
Run again. I don't think it's going to stop him from running. I think they'll realize this. The hard left is saying, "Oh, he's got."
It's just so weird to see a guy who entertained 9/11 conspiracies, thought the moon landing was fake and shit, consistently give platform to a dude who works at a fucking institution, an agency that revels in doing actual real life conspiracies. Why? What happened to Joe Rogan Questions Everything?
Got the world's most dangerous secrets held at Mar-a-Lago, right? And the right is saying, he declassified it all. There's nothing there. And the truth is, like it typically is somewhere probably in the middle. And in the middle, they're probably going to realize they don't have anything to indict him on. Not going to do it. It's going to be like all these other things that they were kind of going after. And so I'll be cutting you a check if you take a check. I could Venmo you or PayPal.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah, I do those things nowadays.
So for someone like me who's on the outside, just trying to pay attention to as little as I can and still talk about it, it's very confusing.
Yeah, it is. It's odd. It's fucking odd if you think about it. I mean, we could end up with Biden and Trump running again in 2024.
I don't think Biden's going to run. I don't think it's possible. I think he's so deteriorated. I think he's gotten to this point where, you know, we're only 2 years in and he's already completely fallen apart where he can't form sentences anymore. I can't imagine they're going to look at him as a viable candidate in 2024. I mean, a large percentage of the Democrats don't want him to run.
Yeah, that seems to be the case for sure.
And no one's excited about Kamala Harris. They got that lady tucked away somewhere.
Oh, God. I don't know what she's doing. I really don't know what her job is anymore. But you're right.
Damn, this fucking sucks. Joe Rogan, have like, you're gonna have a fucking ex-CIA guy, like make sure it's like a kook, you know what I mean? Someone who's like dodged assassination attempts and shit. Not this fucking weird.